morning, welcome back to my creative space. This is Emma on a blusterous spring day, but it's bright and lovely out there. It's blown away all the rain clouds because we had a lot of rain yesterday morning. It was cold and dreich, as I would say, and today is a much fresher day. It's lovely and everything's coming up in the garden, lots of lovely flowers, little crocuses and daffodils. It's getting brighter and brighter and I'm full of optimism today. It's very exciting. Lots of good things are happening, I have to say. We had some funny weekend. When I say lots of good things are happening, there's also been some very interesting, challenging things happening as well. We've had a donkey with a sore hoof, and we've had a constipated cat, and I don't know, all sorts of other things kicking off. It's just very entertaining, and I'm just trying to keep on what I call keep on the surfboard and not let the waves wash me off. But life is full of things, isn't it, that we have to just rise to the challenge. We've just spent about a year, I can't believe it's been a year, since I started going over to see my sister, and we've been clearing out my dad's house, and it's taken a year to actually get everything out and sorted and sent to charity shops or sold or whatever. It's been quite a palaver, and it just makes me look around my own house and think, you know, what else can I get rid of? And the interesting thing, I think, is that the timing of everything, that all the legal stuff has just kind of come through at about the same time. So we're kind of just pulling the whole thing to this sort of finishing line. And it's been very interesting because the timing of it's just all happened in perfect time. We've been able to take our time with clearing the house, which to me was important because it gave us time to go through the sort of the grieving process and sift and sort our childhood. A lot of our childhood was in that house, so we've had some fun times. We've had lots of memories, lots of trips down memory lane, lots of fun, lots of looking at little children's letters to Santa Claus that my mum had kept, you know, little things like that, and unfinished pieces of sewing that she'd left behind, little bits of knitting. You know, my dad darning his own socks in the latter years, on it, you know, because he was living on his own at the end. And just lots of really sweet things and lots of fun, lots of laughter, but I'm pleased that it's nearly at an end and we can start afresh with something new going forward. It's just great. So anyway, teamwork and family is really important. Other people are so important in your life, aren't they? Connecting with other people, which is why I love doing this so very much. I love it. I love what you comment. I love how you sort of join in with what I'm doing and appreciate what I'm doing here. It's very much, I'm just, you know, in a relaxed way showing you what I'm doing and hoping that you'll find something in it that's interesting to see. So today I'm really excited. I'm on my last piece for the exhibition. We've got to be setting up on the 17th of April. Oh my goodness, so I've got some pieces to finish. I've got 2 pieces to finish, but I've also got this new piece to start, and it's quite exciting because it's very different. And I will explain. I won't explain it here because I need to show you what I'm going to be doing, and I've got to work out how I'm going to do it. So I think without further ado, I will go over to my table and I will show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be working with. This is a pair of old curtains that's been chopped up into panels, okay? And we're going to be doing something quite exciting, as I say, something a bit different. And we've all in the group, there's 7 or 8 of us in the group, and we've all got a panel to work on. If I just try and, I can't show you all of it, I don't suppose, but I'll try and show you what we've got going on here. Look, this is a drawing of the harbour at Whitehaven. It's just a section of a part of the harbour, and the idea is that each of us, we're going to have a panel of like this each to work on, to add whatever we want to do with it is up to us, but it's all going to come together and be one big exhibited piece, if you like. So there's going to be 7 or 8 panels on the wall, which is really very exciting. We've never done anything like this before. We've always just really worked on our own individual work to a theme, usually each year when we exhibit, but this year we're actually doing this fantastic harbour piece, which was the brainchild of Sue Todd, who is a member of our group, and she's a very talented lady. She does all sorts of interesting things, including sort of she works with dye on silk, and she does stitching, I have to tell you, with a very beautiful old hand sewing machine. She does machine embroidery like that. So this is very interesting. It's a question of how we're going to tackle it. Whitehaven, as I say, it has this brilliant maritime history. There's a lot of dark things in it, as there is with anywhere, and there's a lot of very interesting old buildings on the harbour. Some of them are old, some of them are more modern. Our work is going to be exhibited at the Beacon, which is a modern art gallery built on the harbour side. So there's this wonderful mixture of old buildings and boats in the harbour and all of these you know, very significant landmarks, if you like. So it's quite an honour to be working on it. It really is, because it's a very interesting place, as I say, and to work together as a group is really exciting. So, but it's a question of, I have no idea how I'm going to work on this. You can see it's quite a floppy fabric, and some of my group actually they embroider. Well, we all do different things. Some people do felt making, some people do printing, some people do machine embroidery, but they don't necessarily do free machining. And I know for a fact that if I do free machining straight onto this with whatever fabrics I choose to put on top, it will likely pucker and pull in. So I'm going to have to stabilize it in some way. I'm thinking I'm either going to make like an applique piece ready just to put on top, and then I'll just stitch it on. And so I can see these fantastic lines, and I'll tell you how she's done this. She took photographs, Sue, and then she projected the images onto each of these curtain pieces. And our theme is called, the exhibition's called Second Thoughts, and it's all about upcycling and recycling. So what better thing to do than take an old pair of curtains and turn it into a piece of art? It's just genius, just genius. So I'm going to have a little think about it, and I'm going to get some fabrics out, and I'm going to make a start, and I'm going to take you with me on this journey, and I hope you're going to enjoy it as much as I'm going to. I'm a little bit apprehensive, I'll be honest, because obviously doing a group piece, it feels like there's a bit more pressure on you to sort of make it look good. And but I'm excited. I love these shapes and I love these dark lines, and it's a question of how much I actually put on, whether I keep some of the lines just as they are or what. So I'll show you an image of what the harbour looks like so you can see too what I'm going to be working from, and then I'm just going to get started. Okay, so this is me. I'm just getting the image up on my screen so that I can look at this while I have a little think. And you can see, can't you, that there's a lot of ground here, which isn't terribly exciting. There's this lovely rusty thing here. I'm not even sure what that is, to be honest. And then these lovely old lighthouses, and these couple of posts for tying the ropes round the hawsers. What do you have? I can't think what you call them on boats. So the drawing is obviously a bigger scale, so I've got to make things bigger. I've got to pick out the details. There's some lovely colours there, colour contrast, but I need to find some way of making this stand out against the background, because I think if I just use white for this, it's just not going to stand out, and it's a question of whether I'm going to go over these lines and cover those over with fabric, or whether I'm going to stitch round them. I think I might need to mess around with some samples and some colours and some fabrics. I love the sky, but I'm not quite sure what I'll do for that, whether I will do the sky or I won't do the sky. And there's this little bit of this little one over here as well, which is very cute. I chose this one. We all chose which ones we were going to do, the different views we were going to do, and I chose this one because I thought it was relatively simple. But actually, when you get down to it, it's a question of making choices and deciding which way I'm going to go. Okay, so I have been to my stash and I've picked out some fabrics in blues, because I'm thinking, well, I'm going to start looking at possibilities for the sky, and I'm going to kind of work from the background into the foreground, I think, and see what, because obviously if it's a white lighthouse, it's going to have something to go behind. That's a possibility. It's very strong blue, but I'll put it out as a possibility. Some of this, which I quite like. I'm thinking of sort of soft blues for the sky, as I say, to give a contrast to doing a white lighthouse. So I think that's got a possibility. That could be something for some sea. That's possibly a bit dark, but I quite like it because again it's quite transparency. It's not too strong. So I think there's things in there that I can use definitely. And just have a little look in this one as well. We'll just have a little look here. Another one. And oh, I think that's a possibility as well. It's quite nice and soft. I think most of what's in here is probably a bit turquoisey. Yeah, I think we'll just take that one out of here and I'll start playing around and see what's going to happen. Okay, so what I found first of all is I've just picked this out. This is an old pillowcase, and I thought I'd try and make as much of this with recycled fabric as possible, and I thought it was rather lovely because it's got this beautiful Egyptian cotton label and it's got a really nice feel to it. So I thought that could possibly be a very simple contender. Just going to fold it up a bit like this for the lighthouse. Obviously that's much bigger than it needs to be, but what I'm then just playing around with is I'm thinking, well, you know, we need something along the back of here that's going to go behind the lighthouse. It's this lovely, the harbour wall, and I'm just looking at shades for that, and I'm thinking, well, possibly I think that's a better shade. That's so brown, so I think that can just sort of be something we can put across here. Isn't this fun? It's just like, oh, let's play and see what's going to happen. So I've got these sort of shades of blue. I think, as I say, we can't just have the lighthouse there against this background. I don't think that works at all. It's a question of what I'm going to use to try and create some kind of sky behind it. And obviously it's quite a big area to do. It's very interesting doing this piece because it's not necessarily what I would have chosen to do, but I'm doing it and I'm rising to the challenge, and I'm excited because it's something a little bit different and it's going to sort of take me out of my comfort zone. And also you might be pleased that it's taken me away from my embellisher for a little while. Getting back to sort of normal things, more normal things. So I think that's way too dark for the sky. This is quite nice. I mean, you could use this in some fashion just to make some kind of a sky. You could even cut bits out, possibly. I don't know. So, or I may, of course, have to have another little trip to a charity shop. We shall see. Okay, so what I've found is some slightly different fabrics. I've just been having a bit of a play around. So I am thinking about the sky again up here. And I found this pretty blue, which used to be a 90, which I quite like as a shade. I think that's a bit more uplifting. I think that's a bit too much like the sea, so I think that's not a contender. I think it would be better to have these sort of, no, I don't like that. I think this sort of blue as a sort of a background kind of colour, say around this. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get it stitched down or anything, so if I just pop that on there like this, that's my white bit, that kind of starts to make a bit more sense. And then sort of down here, I was looking at the things down here. Let's just move this up a little bit. Quite tricky to try and show you everything, but I think this is the capstan. I think this is where they must have put the big hawsers round for bigger boats. And I was looking at it because it's a very rusty piece, so I was kind of looking at different fabrics for it, and I found this stuff which I quite like, so I kind of cut some bits out. I was just cutting little sniblets. This is not meant to be this shape at all. I'm just playing around with the idea of using something like this kind of fabric to sort of cover this in. As I say, I was just cutting bits off and playing around. But you see, instantly when you start to do that, it kind of starts to make sense of things a little bit. It starts to give a bit of substance to the piece, rather than it just being this completely blank expanse of calico. So the other thing I was doing, messing around, was looking at this lovely fabric here. I was just looking at colours and textures and thinking, well, I could be using little bits of this fabric. I'm just experimenting. I'm just going to take a little bit off here, a little bit off there. I'm just playing around. I'm just seeing what might come to be something of use and what's just really not going to cut the mustard, as it were. I'm not used to doing like colouring like this, if you know what I mean. This is definitely not the way I would normally work. But as I say, I'm quite excited to do it because it's a bit different, isn't it? And it's always good to do something different and something challenging. Oops. Even if it drives you nuts. So that's not too bad on the calico. I don't think. Where's those bits I had for putting these bits over? So I'm just cutting this sky up a little bit so that I can just put a piece across the whole of the top area, just so I can get a feeling and then add other bits onto it. Let's just cut this piece up a bit. This was a nightie. Look, it's a beautiful, beautiful nightie, and it has been used in many of my projects, and it's ever so useful as a colour. I'm just cutting it up and we'll put it across the top there, just to give us a feeling for it. Okay, so I've kind of put the blue up there so that we can see how that could be with a bit of sky. And what I've done is I've cut a piece of white just to pop on there like that. And I was thinking I could cut some little bits of this just to pretend this is what it's looking like. I can't exactly remember how it is in the photograph, and I haven't got it in front of me right now. I've moved it away. I'm just messing about. Look, if we put something like that across like that, that starts to look kind of in the right sort of genre. Okay, and I'm just thinking what we need is a bit of wall along here. So what have we got? Oh look, here we go, this is the piece. We'll just pop that on there, and if I can make that sort of hide underneath there a bit. Oops. This is really rough and ready, everybody. This is really me just playing around to see what might or might not work. Okay, I've got another bit along here. We'll just pop this along here. Let's just chop this up a bit. This is not precious, I don't think. Okay, so let's just put that across there like that for now. And I'm just thinking that what I've cut is a tiny little piece of a little bit of sort of lighthousey looking thing. Oops, where's that gone? Where's that gone? There we go. This is just me, as I say, playing around, and I don't know how that's looking, but I'm feeling that's looking a bit better. I've also chosen to cut a bit of this brown stuff again to put down here to give it a bit of a base. So that's beginning to feel like it could go in a direction that I might quite like. I'm thinking about what's going to happen down here though. I'm not quite sure whether I want to add some fabric onto here, whether I could paint it, I could dye it, I could just stitch it. I've very much got to think about the practicalities of how to jolly well get this all stitched down. So what I've got here is I've got two little scraps of the fabric that's been cut off. These are bits of waste that were left over when Sue cut up all the pieces for us. So I'm thinking that I might do some sampling next. I want to play around with how I'm going to stabilise this back fabric. And how I'm going to stitch things on top of it, and what sort of techniques I want to use, because if I just use great big pieces of fabric, they're just going to sort of pucker and, you know, look a bit messy. I'm thinking about whether I'm just going to add lots of little strips of fabric and then I can blend the colours. I'm wondering whether I put some stabiliser on the back of here, some of my usual tearaway sort of stabiliser, or do I actually put a big piece of Bonder web over the whole thing, which would be a bit extravagant, but you know, it would be one way just to adhere everything down. I know you can buy, I think you can buy spray things, can't you, that you can put down like a gluey spray stuff, but that's not my style. I'm tempted just to use the stabiliser behind, but as I said, I'm going to have a little play around. I might actually do a bit of free machining into this and see what it does on its own, off its own bat, and then I can judge better what I'm going to do. So I think really that's probably about it for today. Thank you so much for joining me here. This is a bit of an adventure yet again. I've no idea where it's going to go or how it's going to end up, but I'm excited. It is something very different, and it's a challenge, and I like a challenge, especially a technical challenge, and that's what this is. I think it's going to work out. I think together the pieces are just going to look amazing. and it's going to be very exciting for the visitors to come and see. They'll be able to look out of the window at the beacon, which looks over the harbour, and then they'll be able to look at our work and see if they can spot what we've created. So thanks again for joining me. I will see you again here next week. Bye for now.
Ba ba da ba da ba da ba ba.